Welcome to Feels Out Loud. It is Sunday, and I hope you have found your morning beverage and a cozy place to join us today. This is Becky McNattin and Martini from Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. We're happy to have you listening as we live and share stories of mental health. Today, we're going to be looking at and talking about intensity of feelings, and we will talk through how this connects to mental health. So, Tara, I'm putting you on the spot. How are you feeling today?
I'm excited.
Ooh, excited. I was going to say I'm feeling pretty happy.
Yes. I think happy is a great word as well. I would say happy or excited.
And in thinking about that deeper, so if we took your feel of excited and my feel of happy, and we thought of those less as descriptors themselves,
Okay.
but more of a spectrum on their own.
Ooh.
So let's take that for example, and let's think about it as a shape.
Okay.
Let's go with a tree.
Okay.
And if the entire tree described a category of feels, so let's say sad, the tree is a descriptor of sad, then each part of the tree, each detail, noted a different aspect of sad. So the leaves of a tree, if we think about it, are really different from branches or the bark or the knots, even though they are all part of that same tree.
Or the roots.
Yes. So we use different words to note the more detailed versions of what we feel. So maybe instead of sad, we said things like low or gloomy or miserable or maybe even heartbroken. I think about, or it makes me think about the ways in which we could show up for each other more if we could both share of ourselves as well as reflect back to somebody else words about the details of what that experience might be. What do you think?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I always love when there's a metaphor or symbolism used. So big fan. And as you were describing that, I was envisioning a tree, you know, and all those words identified on the roots and the leaves and things like that. And my first thought was how so often we don't view it as that. And there's just a period behind the feeling, like happy, period.
Well, it makes me think about as you're talking, how many times we hear, I don't have words, or there aren't words. And sometimes this is a super beautiful thing to say. It really highlights that complexity or the big pain that an experience has. And honestly, sometimes as a therapist, I'm certain you have this too. And as a human being, we don't have language that really encompasses what that experience is, right?
For sure. For sure.
But I think about how this sometimes could get used as a crutch, or have you ever felt like it's used as a crutch? And maybe there are people who are listening this morning that realize, oh, I've said this, or I've had this said to me, and it just like falls short.
I'm already thinking of examples.
Like those moments where we think, what if we tried to find some words? Or what if there were words to describe part of an experience? Maybe we don't have words for the whole thing, but what if there were words for part of it? What does that make you think about?
Well, and I think it's the piece of if you use those basic vocab words, right, like happy, sad, it stops there with that period. But then looking at, like you said, that's the umbrella statement, and then other things underneath it. For example, how many times do we say, in response to how are you doing, I'm tired? Okay, I haven't thought about it until this episode, but it's, well, what does that even mean? You're tired because you didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so you are tired, your body's tired. A lot of times, though, don't we say tired when we're overwhelmed?
Something much more specific, right?
Yes, or exhausted of every facet of our life. But yet we use the word tired, and you don't really know how to respond to that as the other person.
Right. I am so excited to keep talking about this more, these descriptors. And right now, before we get into that, we're going to take a short commercial break. Join us when we come back to play a game together on words that share what we really want to say and how to challenge ourselves to just expand the way we describe feelings. Thank you for listening to Feels Out Loud. We'll be right back.
You gotta find the people.
Welcome Welcome back to Feels Out Loud. I am Tara Martini along with the amazing Becky McNattin. So let's jump right back into emotional intensity and pick up where we left off before the commercial break.
Tara, you were talking about how it made you think about words to describe. And when I was in college, I had a professor in a class that an actual assignment that we had was to be prepared for him to put us up in front of the class, say a word, and we had to come up with 8 other words to describe that word.
No, ma'am.
And to this day, I still remember that experience of being challenged to think about what do we actually mean when we're saying something.
Did you panic? I'm sorry I interrupted, but did you panic when that was assigned to you?
Completely I did, but I have memorized the thesaurus since then. So,
Of course you have.
But I wanted to share a story that happened to me recently. I am training to be a poetry therapist, and that's a person who utilizes written word for therapeutic purposes. And as a part of this training, I participate in all sorts of groups that teach me about facilitation. So recently I was in this group with these very cool local writers, and we were sharing poems and stories and quotes about a particular topic. And I wanted to share part of a poem with you and the readers this morning that was written by a participant that morning for that morning.
That would be amazing.
Totally resonated with me. So this part of this poem, before love, happiness, and joy leave your lips, couch them in reverence, lift them in wonder, over the marvels only they can unlock. And I'm going to read that again. Before love, happiness, and joy leave your lips, couch them in reverence, lift them in wonder, over the marvels only they can unlock. And so a person shared this poem that they wrote, and it led to this really amazing discussion about the overuse of certain words, almost to this place of getting watered down and maybe even meaningless. And part of the group that I participate in during our time together, we write. And so one of the prompts we got to write about were synonyms for the words happiness, joy, and love. I'll tell you, these are all writers, and everybody said this was super hard.
Really?
Yes, making the list of how to, what are we actually saying, as you mentioned in the previous, just a few minutes ago. It got me thinking about how often I use those words, and maybe I'm actually feeling something a little different, like, off the top of my head, satisfaction, belonging, maybe delight or nurture, peace.
Peace, yep.
Groundedness. What words do you overuse?
Well, fun little story for our first episode. I think I said the word absolutely maybe 127 times. So
That's a really good example.
So then going into the second episode, let me tell you, on the forefront of my mind was, don't you dare say the word absolutely. So then I found myself, right as I wanted to say it, then I thought of, it was like that mental thesaurus of, well, what is another way I could respond? Because that means absolutely, but something different. So then I found myself using words like exactly. That's perfect. That, all these things where...
Like other ways to say agreement.
Yes, because apparently that was my safe, natural word that I didn't even know I used a lot. But it's also one of those too on how many times I think of myself as a therapist. If I really reflect, it would be so cool for all of our staff, like if we did this one day, like reflected on what words or sayings or expressions do we overuse during a session?
Yeah.
And is our vocabulary actually really small?
Yeah. How can we challenge ourselves to expand it? Well,
Absolutely.
It made me want to. It made me want to try something with everybody today.
Let's do it.
So I brought a box of crayons. And because I think colors are absolutely incredible, they do an amazing job of noting spectrum. Think about a wall of nail polish, and you look like you have your nails done, so you just recently had that happen.
Girl.
Just when you think that pink was a color by itself, nail polish shows us that there are actually, it shows right back to us, there are probably about 1,000 shades of pink, but also have words to very descriptively depict those shades. And so I brought with me a standard box of 64 crayons. If you have crayons at home, go grab them and join us in this, or pull out your phone and pull up crayon shades. This is something you can do with your household later too. When you get a box of 8 crayons, you're pretty much going to get just one of every color. We know that is not the only colors that exist. There is a spectrum of every single color. So the box of 64 crayons does a better job of that. For the game today, the little game today, I want us to divide the colors into red, orange, yellow, blue, green, pink, and purple. So 7 colors, 7 feels. We are going to take a color, we're going to pick a color, and then find an emotion to go with that color. And you and I are going to take the challenge of finding 4 other words to describe that emotion that would match the intensity of the shade you see.
Love this.
And since we don't have listeners right here with us, we will describe the color. We'll have to maybe we can even say the name of the color out loud.
Absolutely.
And then come up with a word.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use words that we hear a lot. And you mentioned one in our last segment, excited. That's what I felt. Happy, or I felt happy. You talked about stressed. I would love to use that one. But I thought we could start with the color pink and using the word excited. You grab a shade, say another word
I love
to describe
this.
it. So tell us what you picked.
I selected carnation pink.
What does it make you think of? What's another word to describe excited?
My immediate thought was childhood. Eager.
Oh, I love that. Eager. I'm holding kind of a light shade of pink. Kind of reminds me of like ice cream, like strawberry ice cream. And so it feels like curiosity to me. And I think part of excitedness is curiosity.
Oh, for sure.
Pick another one.
Okay, this is so interesting because this one I just received is called cotton candy, and that was going to be my guess for the last shade of pink. I was like, oh, this is cotton candy for sure. So, cotton candy, this one, I think of fun, excitement. Yeah, those would probably be the first ones.
Okay, kind of like a fun
Yeah.
to describe that one. Okay, and last shade of pink. This is a really intense shade of pink. So when we're looking at intensity here, I would say like something that's a very deep way to describe excited, and I'd say exuberance then.
I was going to go with passion. Very similar.
Both great ways to describe excited. Let's move to red and call this stressed. And what are ways that you would describe stressed, Tara? You choose a color.
Here we go. Sorry, stuck in the Band-Aid. It is... I got red.
It's standard red. Okay.
Standard red.
A classic
so
way to
then this
describe
will be
stressed.
stressed.
And another way to maybe even say stressed, what you mentioned in the previous segment, overwhelmed.
Yes.
That was your word. That's a strong parallel to stressed, and could be a great way to describe it. This right here is it's a deep red. There's almost like pink. Well, there's some pink and
very
brown
pretty.
in it. It's actually called Marvelous, which I love. I'm going to say that this just makes me feel strained. So if I'm really stressed, I feel kind of a tension. So I'm going to go with strained.
Okay. This one, I would say it lends itself more into the purple realm, and it is a red violet. And my thought was scattered.
What a beautiful word. And we have one other shade of red that's on the table here. And I'm going to go with just like so rushed. When I feel very stressed, I feel like I'm moving from thing to thing to thing so fast. What if we move to describe happy? What was my feeling this morning? Let's use yellow and grab a shade of yellow and tell us what is another way to describe happy.
I love this. I received canary. Peaceful. This color, for whatever reason, is like a weird greenish gold yellow. And it just reminds me of peace.
And what an interesting facet of happy, to feel peaceful. That's really different from other iterations of happy. Like I'm holding one that's super bright,
It's like fluorescent
like
almost.
almost fluorescent, and that feels free to me, like absolute freedom.
What do they call it?
Something so vibrant. This is standard yellow, my dear.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go with this beautiful orange yellow, i.e. Banana Mania.
Oh, even the name of it sounds fun.
Yes. And I don't, for whatever reason, another word for happiness that popped up was light.
Oh, I love that.
In more than one sense.
Yeah.
To feel light,
Yeah.
to see light around you.
Yeah.
Just light.
And I'm holding one that has definite golden colors to it,
yes.
almost like parts of a sunrise or a sunset. And so that just made me feel serenity along your peaceful line. But I feel like serenity is an underused word.
I absolutely agree.
Love it. Well, these are fantastic words. What about blue and using blue to describe sad? Pick up a blue and let's describe sad.
All right, this one is a darker blue. It's almost like a dark turquoise. They call it blue-green. And I would say lost.
What a beautiful word. That reflects the intensity of what that sad feels like. Those moments when we feel directionless. This is a really light blue. And so I'm going to say the intensity is like less of a sad. It almost looks gray. I'm going to go empty.
And
Empty.
empty is such a perfect way to describe gray in that if you think of it, even just thinking how you feel and do like a body check, that gray totally represents empty. That's incredible. All right, next one. This is definitely more light. They call it sky blue. And I am going to go, I just thought of the word tired.
Which definitely, we talk about tired. There are aspects of when that depletion that comes from sad.
That exhaustion.
Yeah, that leads to, hey, I'm tired.
Yep.
And so I'm going to pick a really intense version. This is actually called outer space. It almost looks black. So I'm going to pick just a very intense way of describing sad, and I'm going to say devastated. It also made me think of despair, which to me are two super intense words to describe sad. But I like your description of tired. Let's use that as a kind of an overused word. Let's go with that green.
For sure.
Pick up green and
Here we go.
and talk about let's describe what tired feels like.
This one I would say is a brighter green. They call it Granny Smith apple. And I would say confused.
Ooh,
little
like
bit.
confused when you're tired.
Yes.
Almost like your brain is so
Yes.
overworking that
Yep.
it's because it has some of those maybe stressed
Yes.
thoughts in it.
And you can't put anything like a coherent thought or saying together.
Well, this is an interesting shade of green. So I picked it. It's olive green, but it just comparatively it looks like an interesting shade of green. So I was looking for like what might be a facet of tired that we don't think about a lot, and I'm just gonna go with distant. Sometimes when I feel we talked about this in our previous episode, when we feel really disconnected, we're sort of distant from ourselves, from other people, and that leads to a fatigue for sure. What you got?
All right, I'm going to go with this one's pretty dark, as in a pine tree,
Okay.
pine green. And I am going to go with worn down.
Oh, yeah. That's really great. Almost it adds to that sort of exhaustion, like an erosion. All right. Well, I'm going to go with it's a really bright green. And I don't know why it makes me think of this, but I'm going with my first thought, uninspired. I get really tired when I'm uninspired.
I do as well, girl.
So many ways to describe tired. Let's move to, we got purple and we got orange left. Let's do purple. And let's
do
talk
it.
about scared. That's a word that's used all the time. I feel scared.
On so many, and if you think about it, in so many different ways, right?
Uh-huh.
Like scared like a little kid.
Yep.
Let's go with this one, which is violet, as in purple. And I am going to go uncertain.
Yeah. Like, when we're not sure, that unknowing is so scary. Almost kind of anticipatory.
Yes. And I think, again, from that child perspective or that adult perspective, yes.
Well, I'm picking one that is a really bluish looking purple. And since blue was feeling sad, I'm kind of comboing like what's a scared sad? And for me, it's exposed.
Oh,
There's a vulnerability with that is so scary.
yes. Yeah. Just the word vulnerable. All right. I am going to go with a very dark blue. And the word that instantly came to mind was depressed. And I think just that dark, that feeling
Scariness
of just,
being...
yes. And how am I going to get out of that? Right? And you're so scared because you feel you don't have the tools
Right.
to do it.
Right. That kind of as it leads to that sense of unknowing, but that I'm not equipped either.
Which is so scary.
Yes. And so I'm holding like also a pretty classic purple here. And part of scariness for me, one facet of it is this insecure. When it's an iteration of the kind of thought processes you're talking about, but insecure in like, what can I trust? And how internally scary that is.
And the idea of, if you really think about it, the other side of the spectrum, that if you are secure, the opposite, are you scared? Right? Is there a
Right.
place in your body that you, or mind, you
That
feel
you're feeling
scared?
it. Yeah. Well, I'm holding an orange crayon, last one, and I want to use orange to describe a very overused word, mad.
We're going to talk about that later today, too.
And this is like a reddish orange. So real bright color. And one of the things that makes me feel angry, it's a facet of anger, is humiliation. And I'm saying humiliation on this one.
And such a strong, perfect word for that level of mad that is so deep. I am going to go with this one. It's kind of a lighter, gentler. They like to call it macaroni and cheese. And I am going to go with bitter.
Oh, yeah.
I just think bitter.
That's a great way to describe mad. Got another one here, another orange. And this is also, it's actually called red orange. So it's a reddish orange. It feels very deep. And so I'm going to say betrayed. And how betrayal shows up as being mad.
What an awful feeling to feel. I have just plain orange, and I am going to go with bothered.
Oh, yeah, like that mad, like irritated.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that irritated, that annoyed.
And can you think
That
about the last time you
bothered.
said bothered?
No, I cannot. But I can tell you the last time I said mad.
Yeah.
And that's the piece too of, think of how much the person would understand us more if we were speaking to someone, if we used a word that was more accurate for how we were feeling. But we always go for the generic because it's safe. And also we feel we know what that person means. Like, if you say mad, I know what that means. When you really think of it, do we? Or is that just like a safe word to use?
Well, and we've talked on the show about curiosity and wondering maybe what does the person mean by what they're saying. But just even this exercise, these are incredible words. It has me thinking about how many different things are incorporated into that one feel that we might say, where assumption starts to get, well, it could be really prevalent. It starts to get to be a big part of the dynamic that's occurring, because when we might say mad, or we might say stressed, or we might say tired, we could be meaning a dozen different things. And as shades would tell us, they're mixtures of feels. So there is a blue-green, and there is, as we talked about, kind of reddish-orange, and it has this tint of one feel and another feel sort of swirled together. And then that's not the same. Hurt is not necessarily the same as humiliation.
It is not.
And,
it is not.
and you bring up a really good point around, if we were to describe it more effectively, could somebody understand where we're coming from either more quickly, or maybe be able to validate what that emotional experience was if we were really giving credit to the intensity?
For sure. And then think of the impact that would have, right, on the other person. For you would use the word, assumption or assume, in that, what if we didn't, as in, because all these words you use so brilliantly of the sad, mad, happy, but you could get confused because I assume, oh, well, if she's mad, I'm sure she means frustrated. And you come back and you're like, I'm not frustrated at all. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But if we could lead with, well, then whatever that word is, so there is no room for questioning, how amazing our communication would be, the lack of miscommunication, and then the decrease in conflict.
And the way that, when we talk about impact to mental health, or as you're talking about kind of validation, we really do honor the emotion more fully when we can at least try to put a word to the intensity. I think about, hey, maybe I'm not mad because I'm actually furious. I'm furious. And
imagine that difference, right? If you said,
yeah,
I'm mad. Okay, you're mad. I get it. Furious, I'm going to take you a little bit more seriously, which is a sad realization, right? But if you said, I'm furious, wow, that's going to bring my attention to you even faster. And my concern level is increased then.
Yeah, and I'm maybe even noting to myself in that moment where I can say, oh, this is the way to describe it a little bit more. I'm doing that internal validation that you and I have talked about, that we sort of require in this body scan of what is going on for me. Do I know that? And as we said in the beginning, there maybe aren't words to fully describe it, but I do sometimes think it's because we haven't challenged ourselves to think of a word to describe it, and that there could be a word.
Yeah, which we don't. Now, to your point you just made, now I want to put you on the spot. Think about it, because you had said, what if I'm not mad, I'm furious? Well, now think of it from the other way around. How often do we say, I'm furious? And that's almost like an exaggeration.
Oh, good point.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
I'm so furious at you.
When it's actually the intensity
It's just
is,
I'm frustrated.
I'm maybe a little more
Perturbed.
irritated, as you said, bothered at the end. It's it's sort of a light shade where, well, it's a really good point that we, as even in hearing it, we might assume something more intense than what the intensity is, or we could tell ourselves, does this really bug me? Does this really bug me? Or, on an intensity scale, what is my level of tired? From a mental health care perspective, it might tell us, well, how much of a response do I need to have to myself?
Right.
If we think about what level of fatigue is this if I say I'm really tired? Am I totally depleted? Am I fully exhausted? Am I not that? And maybe, we're looking at this in shades. If we almost had a number to describe it on a scale of 1 to 5, where we could really challenge ourselves. Are we dramatizing this a little? Is kind of what you're getting at.
Yes. And speaking of dramatizing, I always think, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this because we haven't discussed it, is that as adults, I feel we oversimplify. We say, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm angry. I always, in my 20-some years of teaching, I always told the kids when we were dealing with figurative language and hyperbole came around, I said, you teenagers are the kings and queens of hyperboles. Well, what does that mean? They exaggerate. A kid doesn't come home and go, I am tired, Mom. I am so exhausted.
Oh, good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Or, OMG, I'm devastated that product is out of stock. That is what teenagers do. It's almost like their purpose in life is to exaggerate, right? They pick this word that is so intense that isn't actually describing how you feel or what is the purpose that you're using that word for. And a lot of times it is that shock factor, that attention seeking. But if you think about it, and I would have kids write it down, what are the ones? I have a ton of homework. My teacher talked forever. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And I think parents or just adults in general, we do the opposite.
Kind of downplay
Yeah,
the
because
experience.
do we want our kids to know that we are so depleted, so empty, so exhausted? No. So we say, Mom's tired.
Yeah, well, what you seem to be getting at also is the idea that if we use more descriptive words, there is a vulnerability and people are seeing more fully where we are.
Which is scary.
Where we're at, which it does lead to that overuse word of scary. That there is a requirement of trust in sharing maybe more fully where we're at. It does seem, though, going back to that poem that I shared at the beginning of this segment, then wouldn't it make the word love or joy or happiness, when we do use those words, if we use them in an intense way and made a commitment to not overuse them, that they mean something? If we really said, when I experience love, here's how I feel, if I could more grasp that and then note that, I get it's vulnerable, but how much more we allow those words to mean something.
And it would. And that's where, when we think of it, that's where similes and metaphors and things come into play, right? So it's, I love you. Okay. Well, if you think of a similar metaphor to describe it, it's a more precise way to do that. That I follow your every breath, or your happiness is my happiness. In that, wow, that's a deep sense of love, right? I am incomplete without you.
When we were doing the activity, did you find yourself, as you were thinking of words, or as I was thinking of words, coming up with moments, or were you thinking of moments where you had that feel?
Yes.
Because I had these mental images of moments when I experienced one of those emotions and how different those moments were. Like when we were talking about, we ended on mad, so that's what I'm thinking about right now. I can think about moments of being bothered, and I had this very clear image of driving in my car, having an interaction with someone, and then I could think of when I started with the word humiliated. It was a very different memory. And when I just think of the word mad, it isn't as specific to me. So that happened for you too.
Absolutely. See? Absolutely. Overused word. That exact thing happened. And what it also did is it created a visual in my head for that emotion, which I think we tend to be, creative in our approaches and things like that in life and just what we love. And so it doesn't surprise me that both of us came with, we saw the color and it was that experience or that visual that represented it. And then I would find myself then finding the word for it.
The moving back to the memory.
Which
and
is,
then,
which was maybe why I was a little more delayed in my response because it was that moment first. And
yeah, so maybe people at home, as they're even holding a crayon right now, they may be thinking of a specific experience that they felt that shade.
Yes.
And then they're saying, well, what word described that moment?
And all this happened by just looking at crayons.
Well, it's a sort of personal challenge. I'm finding that it feels like a personal challenge to use the words we've talked about. And I know that sounds really simple, but I don't quite know, as I'm thinking about it, what does that look like in putting it into action? So I'm thinking about what's one word I overuse, and maybe you can answer this too, Tara. What's one word you overuse that you could swap out 2 or 3 different words for, and you could try that starting this morning?
I think one word I use is fabulous, or I used to use it all the time. Like, oh, that's fabulous. And to think of other words, I love the word just, that's wonderful, wonderful or beautiful, or I do use beautiful a lot. And magnificent. These are just so much more, no pun intended, literally, like so much more colorful words.
They are. And they seem, I feel like even as you're saying them, that I get at least a picture of maybe a little bit more what you mean when you say them. Particularly if I'm around you a lot. And so if I'm around you and you say one word over and over and over again, that I don't necessarily know what you mean from it because you use it a lot. I use the word great frequently, and it's a personal challenge for me now this morning. I don't really even know what that word means. It's not a color. It's actually not even a feel. But how many times do we say, I feel great? What is that?
All the time.
What is that?
I don't even know now that you just said that. I'm questioning what I have meant by that.
But I'm no joke. If I said that, I actually really mean I feel, and it's like I feel exuberant. I feel excited about something. So now I'm thinking about, I use the word great frequently, and it's actually a valuation word. It isn't a descriptor even by itself that tells us.
That's a good point.
Like how good is the word, whatever, or the experience that I'm having, and I'm valuing it. I'm not even telling you how I felt. So I'm thinking about, well, what am I really wanting to say in that moment? What are 2 other words that I could, or 3 other words that I could say instead of that? I just said a couple of them. And I'm thinking about for the listeners at home, if there's a word that you resonate with right now that, I've said that a lot, and maybe it's a feeling word, maybe it's stressed. We use this, and you and I started with this in our activity. We use that word a lot. What am I saying it for? And if somebody says, how are you today?
Question.
Is it a way to deflect what I'm feeling? Is it a way to, as you said, adults frequently do, we minimize our emotional experience? Is it because I don't really want to look at how I'm feeling? What's the function of that? Am I using a word that's overused?
Well, you're doing it to protect yourself too, right?
Potentially, yeah.
And not be vulnerable. That I was just thinking of, think about a coffee shop drive-through. How are you today? How's your morning going?
Yes.
And we say, good, bad. How are you? I'm fine. I'm tired. I'm good. I'm okay. What if you said, I'm magnificent?
Yes.
I guarantee we'd catch the barista off guard. They'd be like, what?
Because
they are expecting a prescribed number of responses. Imagine the surprise that the other person would feel if we really did work to speak the truth. How many of us are not well or good, and we say, I'm good.
Right.
When inside you are devastated, or inside you are empty, or inside you are frustrated or anxious.
And off that, what if our question to people, of course, I'm a color person, as I said. We said, what color is your world today? But what if we chose even a feel? And rather than even putting it into our own reflections, we ask people, where's excitement? Where's exuberance in your world today?
Yes.
Where's magnificent in your world today?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, so many things to think about.
Yep.
I wish we could hear what other words people are coming with up even at home.
I know, how fun.
We are going to head to a commercial break, but Feels Out Loud will be back shortly to talk through listener questions about intensity. Want to know how to use feeling descriptors? Stay tuned, everyone.
All you got to do now. you, Lord.
We are back again with Feels Out Loud, and this part of the show is where we talk through questions from our listeners. If you have a question related to mental wellness, sharing feelings, or topics for each week that you'd like us to process through, please email us. Our email address can be found on our show link. We really do want to hear from you and take every week to wander together about the topics on people's minds.
We absolutely do. And we have lots of questions about intensity. We picked just a couple of them today. And I really like the first question because it's actually sort of a statement. Intensity scares me. We talked about scary in our last segment. I'm worried that I will acknowledge a feel and it will get bigger. So it's a question and a statement. Love what this listener is sharing with us. This idea that, hey, if I really lean into the feeling, if I really reflect what that emotion is, it's going to make it bigger. What I hear from that, and I don't know if you hear this, Tara, it's like I'm going to make it, if we're evaluating it, I'm going to make it worse. Maybe I'm going to make it uncontainable. Is that kind of how it made you think too?
For sure. I thought more intense, too big, to be able to control. And my first response to it was, let it. Let it get bigger.
Trust.
Yes.
Trust yourself. That we notice frequently as therapists that this is a really common, it's fear.
It is.
It's a very common way of looking at emotion. And really oddly, I don't totally know why our bodies do it, but we are seeking validation. And when we honor the feeling with the intensity that it is, and we can really give it space, it gets better. And I mean better as in it disperses. It is released.
It does. Yes.
It doesn't mean it isn't scary, though. So it's kind of the scary and.
Right.
Intensity is scary, and so I absolutely hear you. The key is to, and I think this leads into the second question, actually.
Okay.
The key is to practice more words. The key is to practice validating what intensity is to build a sense of self-trust that we get through those moments, that it does help. And we have those data points that we can reach back to. Our second question was, how can I practice using more words? Actually, what can I do? Love this.
Love.
Well, one of my first thoughts to this listener is being aware that you'd like to use more words, for one. So
It's huge.
So starting with this commitment to asking yourself, what am I feeling? And maybe you pointed this out in the last segment, Tara. I'm feeling tired. Okay, you even said it out loud, so now you know, because now you've verbalized it. Then ask yourself, what are the two other ways to describe it? So you've said the word even. You don't have to have thought of this before you verbalized it.
Right.
We very frequently with our emotions get a chance to think about them. What are your thoughts?
So many things. That first one of, I also love how you put it when you said, well, ask yourself, what am I feeling? And then ask yourself two other ways to describe it. Also taking the pressure off of the person for, sometimes it doesn't have to be two other feeling words, right? It could be describing what's going on in your body. It could be describe it using something like a simile or a metaphor or a statement, right? Rather than a feeling word. And so there's different ways. I thought back to how many times this is going to age both of us, in that we have to write an English paper. And then you grab out, Becky here has memorized the whole thesaurus, but I would highlight the word, right? I'm angry. Highlight the word.
Yes.
And then you'd have options as to similes that, match. Do that exact thing, but mental without technology of highlighting that word and going, what are other ways, like you said? But again, creating that visual in your head, to me, is going to help me.
A picture.
Yes.
A picture. Well, and then being able to
Or your tree.
go back to the tree, everybody, or the colors, shades of
Yes.
that color. Use it. That wraps our show for today. Thank you for listening this morning, and be sure to join us next week as we explore anger, where that shows up in life, how to acknowledge it, and ways to express it. For today, be kind to yourself. Remember that connection fosters wellness, and your voice is one the world around you needs to hear. Share yourselves, friends.